Hello and welcome to Politics Today. I'm Farooq Pitapi. Viewers, if you remember, yesterday we were discussing that Mian Nawaz Sharif has been given permission to leave the country. So he has left the country today, and a lot of discussion has ensued because usually that is what happens in this nation. Certain pictures actually appeared in the media and social media, and then people actually kept on questioning that in the past few days we have been hearing about him being very ill. In fact, one or two channels went to the extent of saying that he had a massive stroke. But this is an amazing stroke that he can walk and talk and climb stairs and then leave the country without any problem. These are important questions because remember that there was an exemption and there was an extraordinary precedent set for the gentleman. But this is one aspect. The second aspect is Maulana Fazlur Rahman's sit-in in Islamabad that continued for quite some time. And now it is more or less off to its plan B, which seems to be working or not working. We won't be able to tell you because he is not sitting in Islamabad and there is no yardstick to actually check whether it is succeeding or not. But in that context, the first development that I mentioned, is it going to lower the temperature in the Pakistan's politics in coming days? Does it mean that our media pundits are now going to talk about policy rather than health of one gentleman or the other? Or are they going to obsess about the very same things that they have been doing for past 10 years, 20 years? Let us discuss these aspects. And then, of course, yesterday, if you remember, I also pointed out that if anybody had any objection regarding the judgment or the verdicts, follow up, the best way to actually solve these problems is to come up with more legislation. And as we pointed out yesterday, we haven't been able to do that in the past 1.5 years. And that is a big question. We are going to talk about these matters and more. In order to help us understand these issues, we are joined by Dr. Zubair Khori, a senior analyst, used to be an anchor for Pakistan Television as well. Thank you very much for being part of the program. Next to him is Barrister Safiullah Khori Sahab, a young and bright lawyer. Thank you very much for being part of the program. Next to him is Faisal Raza Khan, a senior journalist. Thank you very much for being part of the program as well. Dr. Zubair Khori, we have to start with Mian Nawaz Sharif's health, unfortunately. And I say unfortunately because that seems to be the entire scope of discussion of politics in this country. So do you think his departure is going to lower the temperature?
Thank you very much, Farooq, for inviting me. I think I vehemently agree with the latter part of your introduction, that we should move beyond this now. It's very unfortunate this whole country of 222 or 23 million people have been embroiled in all these discussions that somebody is going out or not. Does he get any reprieve or not? Is he ill or not?
Yeah.
We all should move on from now onward.
Will he, won't he, right?
Yeah.
The typical...
To be or not to be, that is the question. So it's a kind of a state of
Denmark. You are raising the stature of what I am saying. Actually, I am talking about will he, won't he?
I'm just
the infatuations and all those predictions.
I'm just trying to put the things in a perspective that there is something rotten in the state of Denmark, as Shakespeare put it. There's something rotten in our state of mind. These are the petty actions. These are the petty
when you said Denmark, I was asking myself, where is he going with this? So you came to the state of mind.
Yeah.
That is amazing,
so,
right?
I'm just saying that there are many other things to talk about. There are many other issues. और भी गम है ज़माने में इस मोहब्बत के सिवा ये जो मोहब्बत हमने पाली हुई है.
Right.
So we have to move beyond this. It's a win-win situation for both the parties, for the country even. If
both
we
the
have
parties,
been,
come on. How both the parties?
Yeah. Let me explain it if you ask this question. For the PTI, it was the point of their narrative. It was their line of action that we won't let anybody go out. We won't let anybody scot-free. That's what Prime Minister have been telling everybody.
So letting him go is a win.
No, it's a kind of a no problem attitude.
Okay.
That we don't have any problem because our narrative is still standing. And even after his departure, was allowed by the courts, Prime Minister was saying that I'm telling you once again, he was saying while inaugurating that motorway in Mansehra, he was saying, I'm not letting anybody go. It means that this is one particular case where the government has not allowed, the PTI government has not budged down from its demands or its narrative. It is the courts which has intervened and stated something. I don't want to comment on to that. On the other hand, if the PMLN was saying, we are not getting any NRO, who is giving us any NRO? Who is giving us any reprieve? We are not going for any facilitation. But now, since courts have intervened, so they said this is our legitimate right because of the health issues.
Courts were actually technically the third tier. The first tier was his own and the other doctors. The second was the executive. Actually, fourth, when you talk about NAB as well, right?
Yes, yes.
So, a relief for one man after so much time is an amazing development. But my question is about lowering temperature. Do you think that now opposition is going to cooperate with the government? Or it is going to be...
Or the government will try to bring down the temperature?
Why should it? It just
the government doesn't want to bring down the temperature.
It just allowed some kind of concession.
No, the government needs that lowering of the temperature to the normalization of the situation in the country so that the governance and the economy can improve. These heightened situation will not improve the governance.
I'd love to see the political temperature of the country to go down, not to raise the program temperature though. Safi, your take on...
So, Pathafi Sahab, I think that when we speak about political temperatures rising, they don't necessarily rise in real life as much as they rise on media. And I think that the government itself was not so bothered about these things as much as perhaps the media was presenting it to be. You have just mentioned
ministers were constantly talking about
it. Yes, of course, and so because this is what media wants, this is what people want to hear, and since it's a topic of discussion. However, this is a topic of discussion only for media consumption.
I have to stop you and ask you. You made 3 assertions. This is what media wants, this is what people want, this is what ministers want.
Yes.
Tell me, how do you actually reach those 3 humongous
conclusions? Like you said a little while ago, unfortunately we have an appetite for things that are not necessarily relevant to the country's proper functioning. One man's health should not have an impact on the entire country's economy or in fact on the entire country's governance.
And it does.
However, unfortunately, in our country, it has become somewhat of a national obsession. For the people to pursue the health of one man, for the media to consistently barge the people with information on the health of one man, and also for the government then to engage in this debate on the health of one man. Right. However, this does not have any real impact on what's really happening in the governance in the country or any legislations or anything. And so I would like to bifurcate all of these things. Now, there is one winner in all of this, and I see that winner to be the courts. Now, of course, there is something that has come out as a huge negative for the courts, and the negative is the fact that they say now, and a lot of newspapers, you might have heard about social media viral image of a newspaper in Virginia, which had very derogatory words for our courts. And so, of course, a lot of people...
I'm going to go to Virginia and read those papers.
No, not at all, not at all. But so a lot of people might believe that courts have a separate system for the rich and a separate system for the poor. And as you already stated that this was an exception. This is not something that everybody in Pakistan gets. It's very rare that courts extend such a...
It was technically an unprecedented
in a way, yes, unprecedented. And so it's very rare.
There
are, of course, there were further precedents as well. In fact, when the PML Nawaz lawyers...
He was not a convict.
No, he was sentenced and then he was...
There were sentences, of course. However, when the courts gave this extraordinary and performed this extraordinary humanitarian gesture, what they've done is, in my opinion, what they've done is they have established further writ of the law and established further impartiality. On the one hand, the courts have been consistently barraged.
I don't know how did you actually mold it into a discussion about the courts. I was asking you whether it is going to lower the temperature or not. Let me actually go to Faisal Saab, who's been waiting patiently for his turn. Faisal Saab, the question about lowering temperature. We see the problem not in the executive, but especially in legislature, because no laws are being passed. So do you think that after this, the opposition is going to start cooperating?
Pathafi sir, thank you very much, first of all. But the situation is very fragile, you know, that right now, I think so that yesterday's speech of the Prime Minister is very clear on that aspect particularly. That government is not going away from the ongoing accountability.
Right.
But accountability for all, accountability for across the board, that must have to be regained, because the process which is going on, it looks like when we are going through the prism, that it look like targeting some of the political parties or political figures. This is the popular debate which is going on in public even.
Yeah, even though Chairman Nab actually
Yeah,
spoke
definitely.
about
Because
it.
the controversial statements, when they are coming straight away from the state organs or from the Prime Minister himself, that is creating some doubts, basically.
Okay.
That accountability process, that's good that Prime Minister Imran Khan is stick to what he has said, actually, what he had said when the political, when the process, election process was going on, when he came into power, and then he has continued that process. Ruthless accountability is necessary to just wipe out that corruption.
Okay.
That is necessary.
That is
but
possible?
that is possible if the government is stick to
No,
its.
do we have any example of any country
Unfortunately,
where it has been wiped out 100%?
No, 100% it's impossible, because you know that in every country, even United States of America, you know that the impeachment is going on against current president.
Yeah, but technically it is not about financial
Yeah,
corruption.
it looked like so, but you know that there are a lot more drives are going on across the world, and this is not some kind of a sin that you are not going to have accountable those people particularly who have enjoyed their governments and all that. One must have to be accountable, but not limited to the political parties,
Right.
other organizations,
Now-
state institutions, and all that.
Now, Mian Nawaz Sharif has left the building, so to speak, right? And there are other parties which might be actually facing accountability, but PMLN's main concern, and they have a huge number in the parliament. Do you think now they will be cooperating with the government?
I think so. There is no question of cooperating the government, because you know that the opposition has a sole role, and opposition has to play its role. Unfortunately, in Pakistan, in past and right now, opposition is not playing the role what the people are actually expecting.
Okay.
Opposition
And what is that?
Opposition looks like that they are compromising, that they have to have some sort of, like Mr. Nawaz Sharif is now abroad, and this is what PMLN might be wants. So people are right now thinking that what is the ultimate result of that Dharna or Azadi march by Maulana? What is behind the cause, what Mr. Nawaz Sharif has said, or Mr. Nawaz Sharif was pleading for something, or his party was pleading for something. So people of Pakistan has the issue of economy. They have the issue of inflation.
Right.
Right now, the situation, economic situation is very much poised, because internationally, even when we are just using the figures of international, like World Bank and USIP and all that, 2.9% of your GDP,
Okay.
which is just plunked.
Okay.
Then you have
these
rising
are-
inflation that is in double digit.
11%,
So no,
yeah.
no
Yesterday
doubt
it
that
was.
might be the current account deficit is going to be balanced in some way.
Yeah.
But it will take, now the figures in 2020 is going to be more horrible. Might be there would be some change in economic setup when the reforms are going to be set.
When they say that in 2020 they are going to be horrible, they are actually projecting on the basis of this quarter
Yeah,
or the
definitely,
previous,
definitely,
right? But in truth, today Prime Minister has actually pointed out that now we have surplus. It is no more deficit situation in current account. So things might be correcting themselves. But I get your point that at this moment the government has to focus on
One
these
thing I
matters.
want to add here,
Yeah.
that the political stability is a paramount when you actually wants to build your economy, even
Yeah.
right from scratch.
Yeah, or
so that is
anything
very
for that
important.
matter. Yeah.
You know that unfortunately from the last many decades, Pakistan is striving for having some sort of stability at the political
Yeah,
arena.
Pakistan
But,
doesn't seem to be striving for having stability. we have a great time actually trying to pull down people.
After 1.5 decade of sacrifices of Pakistan's military, Pakistani innocent people, the citizens and all that,
Yeah.
we should have to gain what we have achieved.
Absolutely.
But unfortunately, this political gimmicks and all that, this is basically, we are actually
This is
losing
also-
some sort of things.
This is quite interesting because, and Dr. Zubair Hori, I have to come back to you. I remember how enthusiastically the television pundits were supporting the idea of current government. It came into power, they were like supporting it for quite some time. Now the very same people, it seems that they behave like a tiger. And any government who is supported by them is actually riding that tiger. And now they seem to be actually going after the government as well. So the biggest problem is the new power centers like anchors, others. When they contribute so much to instability, are you going to have stability in the country?
Yes, that's a very interesting question. That people keep asking the question that these are the very people who advocated them day and night, and now they are going against them. It's kind of a syndrome. Many syndromes that the Pakistani nation is facing is that we want the changes in a jiffy. We want some kind of a revolution. Hang them, drag them, put
Not
them
a ministry?
in. No, I'm just asking. Let me complete the argument.
No, I'm talking about if somebody is a pundit.
Everybody is saying that if you want to, I'm just trying to play the devil's advocate in the favor of the government, that if you have to change the very dynamic or the paradigm of the economy, which was previously a trader's economy, and now they are trying to make it a producer's economy or an economy of exporters, then definitely you have to turn the tables. Then definitely there's some of the interest of some of the people who have been reaping these fruits for such a long time might be affected. Those who have been affected and those who are against this change of tables or change of paradigm, now they are clamoring. And of course there are linkages, there are interconnected activities. As far as the media is concerned, they have their bread and butter in squeaking things out, in giving the negative things, in shouting high ups. If they start selling the positive news or the good news does not sell, unfortunately, for everybody. Now, coming back to the accountability point of view, there is another paradigm or there is another aspect.
Hang on, before you go there. If you are a pundit, I mean, if you are an analyst, is it not your responsibility to analyze things rather than just create a show?
It is. But who says that they are the analysts?
They're pundits.
They are just players who just open their Pandora's box every evening from 5 to 12 and then start showing things. Look at this, colorful, bright, shiny, fiery. And we are just watching, flabbergasted by the shine and the color and the importance that they are showing them. Because tomorrow morning you must try to remember something that, did I learn any constructive thing out of those analyses?
Yeah,
Nothing.
That might be so.
So the point here is, just forget about them for the moment. The government, this is a great opportunity for them. The temperature must come down. What I think that if he has gone out, the ministers should not be talking any more about them, because things are out of your hand, at least for the next 4 weeks. When he will come back.
How do you manage the narrative, A, and B? There are lawyers among them as well. For example, Fawad Chaudhry. And he's making a point. I don't know, I'm not going to agree with it, but there are many people who seem to agree.
Mr. Fawad Chaudhry or anybody else, they should be talking about their own ministries.
Science and technology.
Whatever they are holding.
Okay.
It is the prerogative of the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, who is holding that very mic for the government, being the spokesperson for the government. That person should be speaking, or that person should be sitting next to him or her.
You have to clarify 2 points here. A, are there any bylaws which define which minister
No, there are no
should be
bylaws,
talking?
but there are
And
certain values and traditions.
And secondly, if you are a minister, do you cease to be a person who has his own opinions?
No, you keep your opinion, but when you are talking to the media, you have a mic and a camera in front of you, then you are definitely representing something. Then people will quote you, the minister for something. They are not saying Mr. Fawad Chaudhry or Mr. ABC. They are saying minister. That means you are representing a government, you are representing a cabinet, you are representing a group of people.
Actually, people quote the men and women by name rather than their ministries.
No, they are ministry. If they are not ministers, they will not get that much importance. Okay. The second point, this very important point regarding the accountability, the government is only working on the curative side of the corruption. That something has happened and then let's punish them.
Right.
There is a preventive side also. The governments all over the world have tried to handle the situation through various different means. Going to technology, going to open the government, going to automation, going to bring in the human hand lesser by lesser, your interaction with the machine. For example, I give you an example of the traffic police in Dubai. If you are challaned here, there is a human element in it, and you can intervene here, there on that whether you bribe that person or you call somebody or ask somebody, maybe affected by the car, maybe affected by the colors or the things that you are carrying on the car. But if you are a camera and you have violated something and that camera picture goes to your home.
Yay
That's
to
it.
AI. More job displacement.
That's it.
But okay.
So the corruption can
Let
be
me-
controlled through alternative means also. The government should focus on governance, improving the systems,
Yeah.
and then there's that preventive part can be covered. Only curative, nobody can do it.
Yeah, but if you have to do that as well, you have to make laws. And in order to make laws in a hung parliament, you need cooperation of the opposition. Nobody seems to be telling me whether the opposition now is going to cooperate.
No,
or
I'm
not.
not saying this is the
No,
responsibility.
I have to ask
Hafiz Saab,
Safi.
I will give you the answer, and it's really simple. The opposition need not cooperate.
Yes.
The opposition has its job of trying to stop bills. However,
No, not stop bills.
or
Correct them.
correct them. However, there is a huge failing when it comes to the government, which is the fact that it is not presenting enough bills.
No,
That
it
is what
has
the real issue
presented
is.
in lot.
No, as far as the
I mean,
government's
now they have passed something like 5, 6 ordinances. That
not
means they
5,
pro-
6, 8
produced-
ordinances,
They
8
did not
ordinances,
produce
all
them.
of them in one day.
They did not produce
All
them
of
in
them
the
in one day.
They just
And that's
got it
what
in
the
the
real problem is.
Yeah.
That the government is, and if you look at the
No,
ordinances,
somebody wrote it, right?
if
So
you look at the
this is what I'm
ordinances,
saying.
all of those ordinances are ordinances that have to do with basic procedural issues that very well could have been debated in the assembly.
No, but
However, they're not
CRPC,
being.
PPC, you're a lawyer and you
Yes,
keep
of course.
telling me that they are actually more than 100 years old.
Of course
and
they are.
somebody is trying to fix them. Is it not
No,
responsibility
Hafiz Saab,
of the parliament?
that's exactly what I'm saying. It is the job of the government to propose bills. My question is the government proposing bills?
Right.
And it's not.
No.
It's failing. That is what the real issue is. We have, so for instance,
They
I will
table
give you an
them.
example. You stated that there's a CRPC, that there's a PPC. All of these things need amendments. We are in absolute agreement. Everyone here is on this table and in the government is on agreement that these laws need to be amended. My question is, where are those amendment bills?
They were tabled, they were sent to the standing committees, and those standing committees, because they have 50-50 constitution, the opposition doesn't seem to be playing ball.
So when it comes to tabling, for instance,
Yeah.
the PPC and the CRPC, there was no bill tabled. There was one bill tabled for amendment of the CPC by Dr. Farooq Naseem. That bill has not been passed. That I agree is an important bill, by the way. I'm not suggesting.
It has been
However,
passed?
It has not been passed. It's still pending. However, there are many other issues within the government
Yeah.
that need to be reconciled. And unfortunately, instead of passing bills, what we see the government doing is standing and giving speeches, emotional speeches on issues of what the circus dharna is, on how Bilawal, for instance, speaks, and these are issues that a government should not be doing. The government's
So-
work is to be drafting good bills, putting them before the assembly, letting
So the government should disappear from the scene and just do whatever it has to do, right?
No,
But
I'm
Hafiz
not.
Saab,
I
You're
feel it's a matter
reminding me of
no,
Arrested Development.
No, but Hafiz Saab, it's a matter of
But
priorities,
people
right?
People of Pakistan had voted the government, voted in 2018 elections, and not for this meager debate that you have to make statements and then the counter statements.
Yeah.
But the thing
Faisal
is,
Saab, if
there
somebody
should-
is standing in Islamabad threatening to attack if you don't resign, are you not supposed to at least answer them?
yeah, definitely, you are very right that if the situation emerges like that, government might respond, and government has to respond actually. And on the other hand, what my senior colleague has pointed out about the media, that yes, of course, good news is not a news, unfortunately, particularly in private media. But the thing is that when something is going to be happen in a city where the media is actually supposed to do something on particular aspect, and they have to cover, because this is ultimately a news which must have to go on air.
No, that is true.
That
Look,
is the thing, that whether the media is going to restrict that news into a certain parameter or not.
No,
That
first
is
up, I
important.
understand. And the issue is not you or I as journalists, because most of us have actually spent time in the trenches, right? There are two tiers which are quite interesting. One, media owners. The second, these anchors, right? Most of these anchors / pundits and the media owners, they keep on shaping up narrative which has hardly anything to do with the common man.
Yes, definitely. This is what I'm going to point out basically, that now common man is basically, the general public is really in isolation. People are asking that what the government, what the opposition is actually doing for them. because they are from the last 1 year they are expecting something, and unfortunately they are under inflation. They are the life is very much hard now. People are actually in real trouble, and government is the only source
But
which they
going
are.
back to Hari Saab's point of view, when the very same government actually comes up with something like a langar, or it is a brilliant idea, why is it that media only picks it up when it wants to make fun of something, rather than telling people that, okay, there is going to be a safety net, and this is where you have to actually put it, right? Media is not doing that job, is it?
Yeah, definitely. You are absolutely right that when some kind of such kind of safety nets are going to be employed
yeah.
by the government, I think so that should have to be highlighted and given the people at least a hope that
Right.
there are something which is the government
Instead,
is
they are
actually
opposing,
doing. But the
anchors
thing
are
is,
laughing that,
but-
okay,
but
you are
Pataphi
going
sahab-
to
Pataphi
give
sahab, there-
freebies and that's
again,
it.
again, there is a question from the public that people are actually asking that from the last 1 year, why we are deprived of the jobs, why there is a cut in salaries, why this whole scenario is so.
Are you talking about government sector or private sector?
Actually, I am talking about both, because when the
Government,
economy,
sector
when the
has not
economy, when the
actually-
economy is shrinking, your private sector is actually vanishing. You know, because inflation is going high up and it's in double figure.
Okay.
How the people are going to survive? This is the basic question.
Can we talk about our own industry? How many channels have let go people? Many, right?
It's unfortunate.
Yeah, and how many channels were shuttered because of money? One, I guess, right? Right?
Yes, one or couple of
so
them.
the business is not shrinking. Profit margin might be, and that's why people are not getting salaries, right?
No,
Yes,
there is another
definitely.
another side to this media management dynamic.
Yeah.
In the previous governments, the pie size is the same, almost the same. There was a large chunk of the advertisements that were giving from the government.
Okay.
So around 50 to 60% of the revenue of these private channels were coming from the government side. Since Fawad Chaudhry Saab became the information minister, he very vehemently said that we are not going to easy feed you now, we are going to cut it down.
Okay.
So if, for example, it was halved,
So
so the very model of the media management in the
Fell
revenue
apart, right?
Fell apart, was flawed.
no, it was. But the question is, if you are not breaking even now, because that crutch has been taken away, how are you functioning?
No, you are just running because there is very low, there is low nominal cost of running.
No,
of an
there is
organization.
no.
no,
Come
If
on,
the
it is
HR
in billions
no,
now.
No, no. If the HR is slashed, if they are not getting the salary, the nominal cost is almost none.
I mean, we wanted to talk about opposition and government,
these are
but
just
media
services
is
because
an
there is no
interesting
raw
aspect.
material.
For
There is no
Faisal
raw
Saab, you
material.
want to add very quickly, and then I have to go to Sir.
I just want to add that this is not basically primarily the case, because the thing is that media owners who actually own industries and all that, they are diverting some of them, pumping in some of the money into which earlier they were not ready to.
Okay.
And because of they lost some of the public revenue which was earlier available into the pie, that is not there right now. But they are surviving just because of cuts, massive cuts into the
Yes,
salaries.
that's what I'm saying.
Right.
They have fired lots of people.
Yeah, but
And
this is what
the
I'm
precious
saying.
human resource gone.
You know,
and most of the journalists I have seen
This is the amazing part, and that's why you have, partly you have Donald Trump in the US and many other leaders of, very
one of the
angry kind people when people talk about it, because for years under Obama and others, people's salaries were not going up, but the owners or the heads of multinationals or those companies were getting 20, 40, 60 times more salary. And this is exactly what is happening. Profit margin might have gone down, but it doesn't mean that those people are not actually worth anything, those who are working, right?
you are absolutely right. Yes.
So it all comes down to one thing, my social contract. And my social contract has to protect me, you, everybody, right? Why is it that the people who have money in this country, Safi Saab, they can get away with anything?
What a beautiful question, really. And this is the question that philosophers have been asking since the dawn of mankind. However, there is only one
Okay, so
philosopher.
you are going to be that philosopher
Yeah, but
who is
there is one
going to
philosopher who
solve it
decided
for.
that there is a solution to all of this, and he said that the purpose of philosophy is not to interpret the world, but rather to change the world.
Okay.
And so
When I said social contract, I meant Constitution of Pakistan.
of course, and that's the social contract that every philosophy, every political philosophy examines anyways. So when it comes to the examination of political philosophies, we have to keep in mind that a lot of, especially Marxist philosophers have been stating for a very long time that unfortunately the social contracts are defined by capital, and people who possess the capital then go on to shape how an economy or how an entire state would function
hang on,
along with its.
It's a long answer, and I appreciate it. But the humble question is, after 72 years, are you suggesting that we should decide to be a socialist polity now? I'm merely talking about fixing the laws in the country, man.
Right, so
the labor laws.
No, but Tafi sir, that's what the problem is. You're absolutely correct, but the problem is that laws stem from the economy. Laws are a part of the economic structure eventually. At the end of the day,
Not state?
it is, of course, but the state responds to economy, and in response to the economy, it formulates its laws. The state is not different from the economy. It is the material aspect that pushes the state into different direction, that forces the state to adopt different laws.
Yeah.
Now, your question is, why is it that the state has consistently, for the last 72 years of Pakistan's existence, and even before that,
I brought up 72 years only just to tell you that after 72 years it becomes very difficult to change your direction, right? But you can
perhaps
fix
for
the
the whole
system.
world, for
You can amend the system, fix it, improve it. But it doesn't mean that you have to just change everything and leave the country.
So essentially, of course, the only thing that I feel that can happen. So you talked about the social security net of langars, for instance, just a little while ago, and how it was ridiculed. We have to look at who was ridiculing it and why they were ridiculing it, whose interests were being hurt. Every time people get, for instance, free healthcare, every time people get, for instance, cheaper access to justice, even every time people get access to free food stamps, any kind of social security, there is a class of businessmen who will take a hit. It is unfortunately those very class of businessmen who have been.
I didn't find any owners of restaurants actually mocking that idea. It was the anchors, it was the elites.
Of course, it's never the restaurants. It's people, when it comes to something like a langar, it's not the restaurants who suffer the most, it's the mega feudals who sell.
When we are talking about our political class and its failure to actually come up with the consensus to make laws, right, and amend constitution, is it not at some level our collective failure as well of civil society that we haven't been able to come up with bright ideas to protect jobs?
Yes, absolutely. So there is obviously clearly a lack of class consciousness.
Okay.
And the fact that there are many people within Pakistan who are simply not pushed enough to understand what the dynamics between different social classes can be.
So we have to end up with, once again, go back to Marx rather than talk about what is happening now.
At the end of the day, Patafi Saab, there have been, of course, revolutions in which countries have changed their entire political systems and economic systems.
And it never worked for them.
That's your opinion, but
Soviet Union, it worked great for Soviet Union.
No,
I mean, it is the most powerful country in the world now.
Yes, and I believe that it was a success. However, there were political reasons why it broke up. It's not necessary that if a country broke up, that an entire ideology fails.
I love to talk about the great ideas, right? But we have to come back to the reality on ground. Dr. Zubair Hori, there's so much need for new laws. And clearly, you are putting the onus on the government, right, or treasury benches. But my question is that I am a citizen who wants relief. And for a long time, I've believed in parliamentary democracy and democracy per se. If it is not working for me and it is going to always work for me and Nawaz Sharif, then of course, someday I have to decide, okay, dictator is okay with me, right?
You can't hunt with the hounds and run with the hares.
Okay.
This is what the government is expecting the opposition to be doing that.
Is it not what they always do?
Yeah. The major responsibility of initiating the legal procedure definitely lies with the government.
Okay.
And I agree with you that some sort of cooperation should come from the opposition parties as well. But I agree also with Barrister Saab also when he said that this is the opposition responsibility to try to hinder the process of the government, whatever they want to do in the parliament. Yes, they have a social responsibility. But if you put in the bill and they try to find faults in it, that is also delaying the whole process. If the government very much willingly wants to run this process, they have to have some give and take here and there. At least stop chest thumping at the moment.
Why?
Everybody,
No, you're saying
all
that.
of them, they are just saying that we will do that. We will do that.
No, hang on.
I will hang you.
I want
will
to
drag
explore.
you.
I want to explore this argument.
Why?
You
Why
think?
do you need that?
No.
You want to do that?
Hang
Do
on.
it.
But this is a very good argument made here in this program dozens of times. Let us today explore it. So if, okay, we have time. If today governments fall silent, it doesn't make that kind of noise, opposition is magically going to start cooperating?
Whenever you say that, whenever you show the red rag to the bull, why you're always ready to show the red rag? Just keep it in your pocket
Yeah.
and slaughter it.
Okay.
I
Nobody
just
is
like to say
slaughtering
something.
anything.
I feel that by
Just
entering
take
into
it by this thing that you are doing your act and
Dr.
not you
Hari,
are.
let Barrister Hari
right.
speak.
I feel that by consistently engaging with the opposition in a senseless debate,
Yeah.
the government is consistently deflecting attention of the public from important issues that are affecting them. There are real structural issues that affect the people, and by consistently by talking about unnecessary things like Nawaz Sharif's health, like Bilawal's way of speaking, like Maulana's past. These are things
but,
that the government
does
does
it
not
make
need
any
to.
difference?
I will agree with him that it's pointless. It's a pointless.
does it make any
Yes,
difference?
it does make a difference, and I'll tell you how
How?
it makes a difference. It makes a difference because what ends up happening is, at the end of the day, what ends up happening is that for the common man, for the ordinary Pakistani, when he looks at all of this, he gets his attention gets deviated. Instead of thinking about inflation and things that are bothering him, he starts thinking about how Bilawal speaks. He starts thinking about Maulana's circus gimmicks. He starts thinking about things that are irrelevant to him. The government needs an iron focus on what they want to do, and they need the entire country to be their team.
No, but again,
This is
we are
what
talking,
leadership is.
We are, no, with
You
due
do not,
respect,
but Tafi Sahab, you do not
Once again, we are
lead a nation
talking-
by polarizing it. You lead a nation by joining it together on one singular purpose or whatever your purposes
can
are.
you give one example where somebody has actually united and led the people?
Mao Zedong.
It was a civil war, come on.
No, but the people were united.
I mean,
there was a
every
there was a
country you
people's
divide
movement.
somebody. Right?
The question was, do people,
There's a
Khomeini
very
demanded.
interesting book has come up on Mao Zedong. That was his personal physician, Dr. Lee. It's worth read. And all the statues and the idols and the Buddha that you have created, they are shattered by reading that.
Okay, but that is your point of view. Faisal
Let's
Saab.
read that.
But Hafiz sir,
I will.
what I am conceiving is, and I have a very strong conviction on that, opposition has to oppose and need not to cooperate.
Oppose the law or oppose the government?
Oppose within the parliament, within
Whatever
the
they want.
constitutional framework, what they have actually,
Okay.
what their obligations are. But where it comes anything related to the national interest, and the public interest, people's interest is primarily the national interest. Because when there is a friction among the people of Pakistan, you are not going to join them, you are not going to unite them, particularly you are not addressing what the people are actually thinking and what they are suffering for.
No, but,
then I think so it's really impossible for you. But the
Faisal
government
Saab,
has to
is it
stick.
not actually
What I-
creating false expectations?
What I want to say is that
By saying that
actions,
uniting the nation.
actions always speaks louder than words, and government has to do. Government has to initiate accountability across the board, rather just politicizing it or just making statements or just victimizing some of the political parties or some leaders.
Right.
Then secondly, that which is most important is that economic empowerment of youth, because you know that more than 60% of the youth are in isolation right now from the last 1 year.
That's-
They are not getting something.
Faisal Saab,
What they
that's
are
an
con-
excellent point. But here's the issue. This government actually doesn't pride in the fact that it has been struggling for parliamentary form of democracy for 30, 40 years. It is People's Party and PMLN who keep on claiming that they are the custodians of parliamentary system of democracy in the country. On one side, you seem to be contributing to the failure of the same parliament by opposing the bills that come forward, right? On the other side, there's this very big argument now that parliamentary democracy has failed all over the world, period. Look at UK, whence it came from.
India.
First UK. They haven't been able to pass the Brexit bill. In India, it cannot stop a bully from bullying the entire nation. So at this moment, these custodians of democracy or parliamentary democracy, they don't realize that they are actually working against their own interest.
Unfortunately, if there is a mockery of justice and mockery of parliament as well, so what we can expect actually?
Yeah.
This is the same what is going on. Even this is not solely the thing that custodians of the parliament are actually driving force for the parliamentary democracy. Unfortunately, they are not contributing into that.
Yeah.
And they are into the meager politics. What is there's just heads rolling, or might be they are just going for to save some heads actually. They are not primarily into the business of politics, or might be to save the democracy at first. Then comes the institutions and all that. If you are not sincere with the parliamentary democracy, how it comes that you are going to address those people who are actually looking looking for some relief? Then actually I was talking about that this
You were at
pacificism.
point 2, right?
This
And
is
now it's point-
pacificism. The pacificism that should not be there, because you have to convert it into hope. Because
How? Why?
this is
I mean,
Because-
there's one contender for the US VP, right? Sarah Palin. She used to use a term called hopey, changey stuff, right? That means it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So why should I actually fall for that? I'm a common man.
Yeah.
Why
Of course,
should I
of course.
not realize that these guys are not out there for defending my interest?
Actually, the important thing is that rather just making the statements on accountability or how to counter corruption, it is important that they have to make the statements that what actually was conceived by the government, now we are delivering.
Right,
So
right.
that is important. You have to project that delivery.
One liner conclusion. I'm told that we have to conclude the program now as well. I start with you.
I think so. Government has to go for some sort of give and take with the opposition.
Okay.
And they have
Abandoning
to
its
realize
principles.
that they are in government rather in a position, because this
Right.
is not the container at which Mr. Prime
This
Minister
this
was on.
argument is, I'm sorry, you are
I think
actually
so.
channeling it from other sources, but it is also very hideous.
No,
I
think
mean,
so. I
opposition
think
keeps
so.
on saying this.
Because it is the sole responsibility of the government
Right.
to take other parties on board, and they have to go along, because this country belongs to all of us.
Barrister Safi.
I believe that what we are lacking in the government is a clear economic vision. Democracy is a flawed argument, because it has been argued time and again that
You
democracy
cannot explode
eventually.
this bomb at the very end. I mean, please give me at least some time to have a discussion on that.
But I believe that what the government needs
but
to
your
be focusing
economic
on-
vision is essentially socialist in nature. Am I right?
Yes, it is. But
Okay, thank you very
I
much.
believe that
We'll
economic vision is
debate
lacking.
this another time. Dr. Hori.
The government should start working on its governance. It's high time.
It is working on
No,
governance.
it is not. It's
Why not?
high time for improvements. It's high time for restructuring. It's high times for working for their reforms that they have been asking for.
Conclusion, right?
That does not need any legal situation. Many of the governance
Right.
structures can be improved without changing the legal system.
Okay.
Without
so-
political stability, you don't have any sort of economic stability.
And
You have to go for
nobody
that.
seems to be interested in that kind of stability. But I'm told that we have to conclude the program. Faisal Raza Khan Sahab, thank you very much for your time. Barrister Safillah Ghori, thank you very much. It is always great having you in the show. Same goes for you, Dr. Zubair Ghori. Thank you very much for being part of the program as well. Viewers, you have listened to this discussion. One, it shows that as a democracy, we are alive. This is a state channel, and we can practically talk about everything under the sun. But the second very important aspect is that when you are looking at these concerns that are there for the common man, I think if you are going to just put the onus on the government, then it is not going to, or we are not going to have the kind of magical results that were needed. Perhaps the entire nation will have to focus on this. It means that the opposition will hold itself accountable, and the government will have to hold itself, and the media as well, and the pundits and all, the civil society as well. Without that, maybe the way we have been behaving in 72 years, things will continue in the same vein. Let us hope that changes. This was today's program. Thank you very much for watching. Take care.